जय गोपी जनवल्लभा जय गिरिवरधारे जय गिरिवरधारी यशोदनंदन ब्रज जनरंजन यशोदनंदन ब्रज जनरंजन यमुनतीरा वनचारि यमुना तीरा वनचारि जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Ram Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare जय गांधर्वे का गिरिधारी गांधर्वे का गिरिधारी गांधर्वे का गिरिधारी गौर हरे जय गौर निताय गौर निताय गौर निताय जय गौर निताय जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय श्रीला प्रभुपाद जय युग धर्म नाम संकीर्तन में की जय श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatya Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Reading from Canto 5 titled The Creative Impetus, chapter number 4 titled The Characteristics of Rishabhadeva, verse number 15. Yadyat chirshanyacharitam tad tad anuvartate lokah. Yadyat chirshanyacharitam tad tad anuvartate lokah. Yadyat chirshanyacharitam tad tad anuvartate lokah. Yadyachishanyacharitam tad tad anuvartate lokah. Tad anuvartate lokah. Yadyachishanyacharitam tad anuvartate lokah. Word-to-word meanings. Yat yat, whatever. Shir Shanya, by the leading personalities. Acharitam, performed. Tat tat, that. Anuvartate, follow. Lokaha, the people in general. Translation and purport. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Whatever action is performed by a great man, common men follow. Purport. A similar verse is found in the Bhagavad Gita 3.21. It is essential for human society to have a section of men perfectly trained as qualified Brahmanas, according to the instructions of Vedic knowledge. Those below the Brahmanical qualification, administrators, merchants, and workers, should take instructions from those ideal people who are considered to be intellectuals. In this way, everyone can be elevated to the highest transcendental position and be freed from material attachment. The material world is described by Lord Krishna himself as Dukkhalayam Ashashvatam, a temporary place of misery. No one can stay here, even if he makes a compromise with misery. One has to give up this body and accept another, which may not even be a human body. As soon as one gets a material body, he becomes Dehabhrit or Dehi. In other words, he is subjected to all the material conditions. The leaders of society must be so ideal that by following them, one can be relieved from the clutches of material existence. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितनां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नमः ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरं। हरिः ओं तत्सत्। Hare Krishna. Whatever action is performed by a great man, common men follow. So we are in the characteristics of Maharaj Rishabhadev, who is an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this verse is telling that it is very important for every great man to set a great example. Because there is a section of people who are called as the common men, lokas, lokaha, and they like to follow. Now, there is a principle in spiritual life. The principle is that one cannot, a person who has achieved some realizations in spiritual life or who has achieved any kind of perfection in spiritual life, no matter how great or small they are in their perfection, they cannot act in an isolated, self-obsessed way with only regards for their own self-concern or own personal well-being. One has to consider what is the effect or what is the condition of the people of the society in general. And therefore, one has to set a great example, behave oneself accordingly so that people may get benefit. In the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj is not appreciating those kind of people who are taking Maun Vrat and for their own personal self-obsessed well-being, they go to the mountains and perform, strictly speaking, Nirjan Bhajan. Prahlad Maharaj says, I don't want to be like them. I want to stay here in the city and I want to lead the life as a pure devotee and I want to set a great example here so that all the people around me get inspired and take to the shelter of your lotus feet. So this is a very, very important principle. This Bhagavad Gita shloka 3.21, where Krishna is saying, Yad yad acharati shreshthas tatta devataro janaha. Immediately after this shloka, Krishna gives his own example. Let's see, if I do not perform my duties, the whole world will go into ruination. So Krishna has nothing to do. You take the example of Arjuna. If he would have gone to the forest by begging, and by remaining the rest of his life, or at least some part of his life, as a renunciant, Arjuna wouldn't have faced much difficulties. He is, strictly speaking, a Shir Shanya, a leading personality. But there are some common people who are not as strong, as determined, and as capable as Arjuna. They will follow Arjuna and then they will suffer so much. So for a Shir Shanya or for a leading personality, most of the times it doesn't matter what they do, because they will be good in almost all circumstances. That's why they are Shir Shanya. But then it is very important, it is a responsibility of the Shir Shanya to think that what will happen to others who would like to follow me. Krishna is all attractive, and based on the desires, karma of various living entities, Krishna invests infinitesimal potencies of himself in various living entities. So because of that, various living entities also look very attractive. Someone looks very attractive, because that person is, very good at running. Somebody looks very attractive, because this person is very good at, earning money. Or somebody looks attractive because this person is very good at some sports. Suppose if Sachin Tendulkar walks in this Bhagavatam class right now, let's be honest, what will happen? Just like Balram, I'm not comparing Sachin Tendulkar to Balram, but just like Balram had entered that arena of sages where Roma Harshan was sitting and giving class, everybody will get up, and Roma Harshan didn't get up. He made a mistake. But here, I think I should remain sitting and wait for others to receive Sachin Tendulkar and serve him and then come back to the class, if at all Sachin Tendulkar will allow. So why we are so attracted to Sachin Tendulkar? Because Sachin Tendulkar has little potency of Krishna, infinitesimal potency of Krishna, which is cricket. If Sachin Tendulkar, who has little potency of Krishna, is so attractive, then we should understand, or at least try to understand, how attractive Krishna himself will be, who has all the potencies. So therefore, everybody has feathers in their hat which is borrowed. Everything comes from Krishna. All the name and fame which Sachin Tendulkar has, all the beauty which these movie stars have, all the strength which these politicians have, all the knowledge which these scientists have, all the renunciation which the great renunciants have, everything will end with just one aspect of Krishna, that is called time. So everybody has to understand that everything comes from Krishna. So everything should be used in the service of Krishna. And while someone has that small potency of Krishna, it is their sacred responsibility to behave or act or conduct themselves in such a way that it will help others in their journey back home, back to Godhead. And this is very, very important principle. So, here in the verse purport also it is mentioned, it is essential for the human society to have a section of men who are perfectly trained as qualified brahmanas to the instructions, according to the instructions of Vedic knowledge. So who are these ideal people who are qualified to lead? Brahmanas are the ideal people. Now why Brahmanas are ideal? Because in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Samo damo titikshaiva shantim arjavam evacha jnana vijnanam astikyam brahma karma svabhavajam. So because of these qualities, Samo damo titikshaiva, one has to be peaceful. That means once, that apuryamanam achalam pratishtham verse is there. millions of desires coming and going. But still one is not become a kami. Yeah. One has to focus on the higher principles of life. That is Brahmana's quality. Damo, one has to control their senses. Sense control has to be there. Because as soon as the sense and the sense objects come into contact, pregnancy of misery happens. That means in future one will get misery. Yo hi samparshajab hoga dukh yonaya evate. Adya antvant kauntaya nate shuramate buddha. So a Brahmana knows Damo, and Brahmana is very tolerant, titikshay. This means that he has understood that false ego is of no value. It is very important to die before you die. That means it is very important to get rid of the false ego before we actually quit our body. One of the names of Krishna is Madhusudana. The word Madhusudan can mean the killer of the Madhu demon. But there is a Madhu which is there in my heart also. That Madhu is the false ego. And I am attracted to that honey, that Madhu, from millions of lifetimes. And Krishna is that Sudan, Madhusudan, provided I allow him to kill it. So it is very important for this Madhu to die, otherwise I will remain a Madhu for many, many lifetimes. So a Brahmana means titikshaiva, that means he will tolerate. What does not let us tolerate? Various circumstances. False ego does not let us tolerate. One day at around 11:30 in the night, I realized my towels are not with me. And I noticed that it was hanging outside for drying. So I walked out of the center to get my towels, and two dogs started barking at me. I could not tolerate that. I looked at them like, do you know who I am? I am the bigger dog. How can you bark at me? That to 11:30 in the night. And then I was just thinking that look at this. This is like zero tolerance level. Not only when people tell me something I cannot tolerate, even when animals tell me something I cannot tolerate. So therefore Brahmanas means tolerance. Kshantim, Arjavam, Evacha. What is the word to word translation of Kshantim? Yes. Shanti means tolerance actually. Samodama, tapa. Shaucham is the word. Yes, Shaucham is cleanliness. Titikshaiva is not there in this verse. I just added. Samodama, tapa, Shaucham, Kshantim, Arjavam, Evacha. So Kshantim is tolerance. So Brahmana should be Shaucham, that means he should be very pure also in his conduct, in his behavior, no under-table dealings. And Arjavam means honesty. Yesterday we were hearing in Srila Prabhupada's lecture that how one has to become trustworthy before being trusted. And people have gone to great extent to become trustworthy. Prabhupada was given examples of Raghunath Das Goswami, Lord Chaitanya himself, Brahma Haridas Thakur. Honesty means gentleman behavior. Honesty means what a person is doing when no one is watching. Here, everybody is watching, so everybody is chanting, everybody is coming for Mangalarti, everybody is reading, hearing, everybody is doing their seva. But imagine if all of us are given, a break where we are told that okay, you have to go to that center or temple, no one is there, you have to just go and maintain it. At least I am not sure about myself. 2, 3 days, 4 days, 1 week, I'll get up for Mangalarti. But after that I will think, or my mind will think, anyways no one else is there. And you have worked very hard whole day. Half an hour more sleep you deserve. So then honesty will go away. So, but a Brahmana will never do that. Whether someone is there or someone is not there, he knows, he feels the presence of Paramatma in his heart, and therefore he knows that if I falter, I will know it, God will know it, and that's not an ideal way of living. So therefore he will not falter. Jnana Vijnanam Astikyam Brahma Karma Swabhavajam. A Brahmana has a lot of knowledge. That means by scriptures. Srila Prabhupada tells here, people of this section of this, it is essential for a human society to have a section of men perfectly trained and qualified as Brahmanas according to the instructions of Vedic knowledge. That means a Brahmana should know what is Vedic knowledge and should train himself according to the Vedic knowledge. There is no such thing that I don't want to be. What is exemplary behavior, by the way? Exemplary behavior cannot be a thing or a conclusion which can be derived by vox populi. Vox populi means popular vote of the people. For example, in the name of women's liberation, various things are happening. That is called vox populi. In the name of secularism, various things are happening. That's called vox populi. So this is not Vedic instruction. One cannot derive some standards according to the vox populi. So Brahmanas should work according to the Vedic instructions. That is very, very important. So that is called as Jnana. Vijnana means self-realized knowledge. How he is applying it in his life and how he is becoming an Acharya. How he is presenting that knowledge to people according to time, place and circumstances. In fact, in one place Srila Prabhupada says that if someone can present the eternal principles of the Vedic literature according to time, place and circumstances so that the audience can digest it without screwing out any other or unintended meaning, this is called as realization. So if we can present this Bhagavad Gita according to the audience without making out some other meaning in line with the previous acharyas, that is called realization. So realization means being able to digest and present it. And he is religious. The Brahmana is religious. He is very, very all the time following the dharma. Dharma means Jive Swarup hai Krishnera Nityadas. So he is always cognizant of who am I and what is the purpose of life. So this category of people should train the society. That's what Prabhupada is telling. And all the other people who are not up to this standard, what they should do, they should take guidance from these Brahmanas. And if they do that, everyone can be elevated to the highest transcendental position and be freed from material attachment. Someone may say, I don't want to do that. See, why I want to go to the transcendental position? Because I want to be happy in life. Now I have made peace with the misery. I am a conditioned soul. Every morning I was being beaten 10 times and in the evening I was being beaten 10 times. Now after 6 months of this beating, I am used to it. I want to get it. In one lecture, a hippie gets up and tells Srila Prabhupada, you're telling not to live life like cats and dogs, otherwise in the next life will become a dog. I don't mind becoming a dog in my next life. So Prabhupada said, yes, you have my blessings for that. So if somebody is mad or crazy and who has decided that I'm okay with these miseries, I'm okay to go through this ordeal, so then for them also, even if you have become okay to go through that ordeal of misery, one cannot stay here. One has to give up their body and accept another body which may not be a human body. And that is unnatural for a spirit soul. Because the spirit soul is eternal. Everything which the spirit soul has, the spirit soul wants it eternally. If a spirit soul has any relationship, the soul wants it eternally. If a soul has anything, it's natural for the soul to have everything eternally. But in this material world, everything is not eternal. So it's a very unnatural environment. And therefore, when death happens, all these jnanis, karmis and yogis, they have a very, very bad experience. and especially the atheists, they cannot just handle it only. They cannot handle it. So even if somebody becomes okay or happy, theek hai, I am very, very happy, I will continue to live like this. There is a warning that nothing will continue to remain happy, because mrityu sarva haraschaham. Krishna will come as death and he will take away everything. So therefore, karo ya maro, do or die. There is no option. The only option is you come to the transcendental position and become freed from the laws of material nature and material entanglement, or else, even if you make compromise with your life, still you will be beaten up and you will not like it. You are thinking this is the maximum misery which I can face. No. There is something called as the mind. And there is no limit to which the mind can make someone miserable. We can practically analyze. Someone is thinking that the most miserable situation which I may have is that I may lose everything in my life and I may be reduced to go and sit on the streets and beg. इससे ज़्यादा खराब तो कुछ नहीं हो सकता. But you don't know. Something can become, the mind can drag you further and further and further down also. I have seen beggars sitting on the streets begging whole day and then going to a drugstore, buying some narcotics, starving because of not having eaten, but then with that money they are buying some narcotics and putting injection in their body. That is called degradation. And guess what? That is not the limit of it. I have seen much more horrible things. Once I saw a beggar putting that narcotics in his genitals. And that's not it I have seen. So there is no limit to which the mind can degrade. So therefore there is no option other than coming to the transcendental position and being freed from material attachment by following the perfect Mahajanas, who are the Brahmanas. So therefore, whatever exemplary behavior is there, it should come from the scriptures, and the caliber of the society will always be judged by the hero of the society. Now take any society and judge the heroes of that society. For example, take the society of, these days everybody likes to associate with the Bollywood society. Now you see the heroes of this Bollywood society, what caliber they have and what kind of inspiration can they give to people. They teach everybody to become lusty, they teach everybody to commit suicide, they teach everybody to smoke, they teach everybody to become a womanizer, and they teach everybody to be drunk, and they teach everybody to go around beating people and running people under the tires of their car. That is the inspiration which everybody gets, and killing black deers also. Correct, no? It is worshipable for some kinds of category of people. So that is not the example which we can derive. So we need Brahminical examples, examples coming from the scriptures. And as long as somebody is following the example of a Brahmana, they are perfect. Srila Prabhupada says, if our knowledge comes from a perfect source, then we are perfect. As long as we are in the process of practicing that knowledge. Very nice example. The car mechanic, the head mechanic and the apprentice mechanics. As long as the apprentice mechanics who do not know how a car functions fully, if they are strictly following the instructions of the head mechanic who knows it fully, these apprentices are as good as the head mechanic. So similarly, not all sections of the society can be at the level of Shamo Damo, Samo Damo Tapas Shaucham, Shanti Marjavam Evacha. Not everybody can come to that platform. But if everybody tries to follow what they are saying, life will be good. And one day they will be able to come, get the maximum possible benefit situated in their varnashram duties. This is very, very important. And it is very important for these Brahmanas to set a great example. If these Brahmanas are only not setting a great example, or if, for example, in present day society there are no Brahmanas, then it is like a headless society. body which has no head has no meaning. So it is very, very important for a society to have a leader, and these leaders, they should set an example, or rather they should show what is the power of example rather than example of power. For example, they should set a good example themselves. They should conduct themselves as happy devotees. Simply by seeing them, many people will become devotees. And for example, the life which Srila Prabhupada has led, it is so inspiring. It is, Srila Prabhupada is not like Santa Claus. Santa Claus is all the time smiling, jovial, happy. Nobody knows what the personal life of Santa Claus is. But Srila Prabhupada was a very grave person, walking around with a lot of gravity, with so many agendas and principles and ideas to apply for the general society, with so much compassion in the heart. He was not smiling all the time. But anybody who met Srila Prabhupada would understand that he is the happiest man. There have been so many examples of power, like forced conversions, like Hitler, like Putin. You go to their burial places, stand there for half an hour, see what happens. Maybe one or two people will come just to do their, they must have been appointed, isko saaf karna hai, you have to clean this place, something like that. But you go to the Samadhi of Srila Prabhupada in Sri Mayapur Dham or Sri Vrindavan Dham, and you stand there for half an hour. At least 5,000 people will come and offer obeisances and go. This is the difference between an example of power and power of example. So Srila Prabhupada is Yad Yad Acharatri, he has given an example by his personal life. But there have been so many other leaders in the society, they have just tried to use their power and made themselves icons. That is called as example of power. So, tad anuvartate lokaha. This lokaha will not ever follow the example of power. Everybody used to say, "Hail Hitler, Hail Hitler." But when Hitler died, the common people came, they chopped him into various pieces. So this power example will not work. One has to rule the hearts of people. It cannot be done by force. It has to be commanded, not demanded. So, for that one has to come to the Brahmanical standard. That's why it is very, very important. Srila Prabhupada is saying, the leaders of the society must be so ideal that by following them one can be relieved from the clutches of material existence. Now, how will these people become leaders? By their personal, selfless conduct, which is in line with the Vedic literature. There is no other way. And they should be very, very careful. Even if such leaders have attained perfection in their life, they should feel the need of the society and come out and show themselves that, look at me, I am a pure devotee of God. Associate with me and learn. I am not here to show off, but I am here to become an instrument of Krishna. So with that, I would like to conclude today's discussion. Just to summarize, there is a principle that no matter how much self-realized one is, they cannot act in a self-obsessed, self-concerned way for their own good. They have to consider how the society needs an ideal example and how they should allow people to associate with them and set exemplary standards which the society can follow, because people need leaders. People are envious of Krishna and they are looking for options where they can put their faith, where they can put their attention other than Krishna. So if they can get some ideal examples, Brahmanical examples, which can later again take them closer to Krishna, that is the saving grace in the human society. Apart from that, we saw that one should judge the power of a society by seeing the caliber of the leader of that society. So if somebody wants to judge ISKCON, they can see Srila Prabhupada. He's our leader. And then we can understand how great this society is. Whatever activities which a leader does should not be based on vox populi, but it should come from Shastra. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavad pranitam, because it is coming from Krishna. We saw how the leaders of the society should be Brahmanas, because Brahmanas have these selfless qualities of samodama, tapa, shaucham, shantir, arjamam, evacha, jnana, vijnanam, astikyam. These qualities, they will inspire people to come to the platform of Brahma Jigyasa. The qualities of a Kshatriya can often sometimes degrade into the example of power. So that we understood that there is a difference between power of example and example of power. So we have to set an example in the society by which people will feel inspired to lead a pious life. And one cannot say that I am very happy in this material world, because they have to face death and they have to go through so many miseries. So they have no other option other than coming on the transcendental platform by taking perfect guidance from the leaders of the society. And the leaders should be very, very careful. Their whole dealings with the society, just like Maharaj Rishabdev, their dealings should be such that people in general will be relieved from the clutches of material existence. In fact, a leader can be tested how successful he or she is, by seeing how many people were inspired to come on the platform of Brahma Jigyasa simply by associating with them. Rather, a leader is a person who creates many leaders in the society, who will inspire others to come to the platform of Brahma Jigyasa. Thank you very much. If there are any questions or comments, they are welcome. It can be, not all the time. If a Kshatriya is taking guidance from a Brahmana, then he is still a power of example, like Rishabdev. But if he is becoming, if he has become Vena, then he is example of power. And people are not inspired by examples of power. Hiranyakashipu is an example of power.
Hare Krishna Guru. Thank you for the nice class. So you started the class with this very strong point that one should get rid of the false ego. So one should kill before we are killed. So that's a very nice point, because that is the root cause of many problems. And this example of power and power of example is very nice. So the power of example, that is Srila Prabhupada, that sets a very high standard for us as ISKCON devotees to follow. So that's very nice. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you for explaining different qualities of a Brahmana and each one, and what is the ideal character, so that they can become a leader in our society and they can create another set of leaders so that they can follow them. Thank you for that. It's a very interesting topic you gave today. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you for the nice class. So the point you mentioned about the false ego. So before we have to die. That false ego should be done before that. So it's like a madhu in our hearts. So we should allow Krishna to kill that madhu in our heart, that is false ego. Another point which is you mentioned, like what our soul has. So it always hankers for eternal. But this is completely dukkhalayam, ashashvatam. Everything is temporary. So you have to aspire that something which is highest, eternal, that is Krishna. So these are the few points which I like. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
you told Prabhuji, as long as you gave the example of mechanics, so as long as the apprentice mechanics follow the lead mechanic, so like they are as good as the lead. So it's as long as the society follow its righteous leaders, so it will function properly. And you told about example of power. So example of power is like mainly ruling based on the fear, uh, creating a fear in people's hearts. Rather, power of example is like the people themselves are giving the respect and Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you for nice class. So you told like regarding the Sirisanya, so who are good for all circumstances, and that is very nice points. And second point is like regarding the like whatever action is performed by the great men, common men follow. So regarding that, you told like Brahmanas qualifications. So Brahmana should be like regarding that Sama, Dhamma, Saucha and Aryavans, like cleanliness, trust, so this kind of nature should be Brahmana. And Brahmana should train according to the Vedic literatures. And Brahmana should take the position of a leader to guide the social peoples, in general peoples who could guide. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, आपने बताया कि मधु demon is my heart in the form of a false ego, so Krishna can kill the demon like Madhusudan. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So this very nice point you mentioned, that every famous person or any person who has something nice, so that is because of the tiny spark of splendor they have from the Supreme Lord. So if these people are so attractive, then how attractive will be the Supreme Lord? So we should understand that, and we should engage in devotional service. And also that compromise with misery is never possible. People may think that they are happy and satisfied because they have made some compromises, but then the mind can pull us, mind can make us more and more miserable, and we will be in a very precarious condition then. So we should rather not, instead of making compromise, we should engage, like we should try to find a solution to this misery. Hare Krishna.
ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। हरे कृष्णा।